Hello everybody and welcome to the ToniSport Newsfeed. Today I'm back with another video for you, and I want to talk with you about all the different things, or a lot of different things you can do to get more steering out of your touring car and to get more steering out of the front section of your car. And generally we can say that steering is super important, and you always need a good amount of steering to hit your lines and to let your car circulate around the corners as fast as possible. But on the other side, it's very driver specific, and everybody has a different definition about steering and what is enough steering and what is not enough steering. And from all my years of RC racing, I have learned that a lot of steering in my eyes is not enough steering in the eyes of the real good drivers. So whenever you will talk to the top drivers in the touring car section, when they are racing at the highest level, and you will ask, for example, Mark Reinhardt or Ronald about their setups, they will always say that the car is pushing. And sometimes it's hard to believe, or it's not possible for us to imagine, because on the track their cars, they look really dialed and everything looks perfect, and then they complain about pushing. So there is a lot you can do to get more steering out of your car, but you have to make sure that you can handle it. I was lucky to get my hands on Ronald Volker's radio in the last years from time to time to drive some laps with his car around the track. And I can only say, especially on carpet, I was really impressed which amount of steering these guys are using. And I was also a little bit shocked that I was not able to drive with this car with the same comfortable feeling than with my own car. And you have to get used to this huge amount of steering, but it is not super easy to handle it. So whenever you try to get more steering into your car, always make sure that you can handle it and that it will make you faster in the end. Always check your lap times and your run time, and sometimes you can maybe get a better result over 5 minutes in case of consistency and the overall run time when you don't have too much steering and your car is maybe a little bit pushing. It's more easy to drive for yourself, but it depends on your talent and on your driving style and everything. So the tips I will give you now, they will help to produce more steering, but you have to be careful with all these things, and please don't try them all at the same time, because maybe then your car will always turn around and produce some donuts. But when you're looking for more steering, the first thing you should always do is to check the setting of your steering geometry in the front, and especially when it comes to bump steering and Ackermann. You can do quite a lot of things. You can use more bump steering, which means that you will use more shims here under your steering block to produce more steering from the middle to the exit of the corner. And you also can go with a less Ackermann effect, which means that you use more shims on the inside of your steering rack, which means that your steering links will point more to the front here on the inside of the car where you mount them on the ball cups. Use more shims to get a different angle in your steering links, and then you will have a more aggressive feeling when you start to steer into the corner. So less Ackermann, which means more shims on the inside, will produce more steering, and in combination with more bump steering, it will definitely be something that you can feel immediately on the track. Okay, another thing you can adjust is the steering angle, so the overall steering angle of your car. You can do this with the setup system on the car and with your radio using the dual rate or the EPA settings. You can adjust the end point of your steering, and as we use indoors normally a little bit less than outdoors, you can then decide by yourself if you want to use 29, 28, 27, 26, 25. I always recommend to use as much as you need, but as less as possible to don't lose a lot of corner speed. But in generally, when you're running 24 degrees and your car isn't turning in on a big track or on a small track, just use 2, 3 or 4 degrees more overall steering lock, and you will have a car which rolls tighter around the corners, especially when the corners are slower. Okay, you can for sure try some things concerning the toe, the rear toe in and the front toe out. So when you're looking for more steering and you're using 1.5 or 2 degrees toe out each side on the wheels, which is quite a lot, you can go a little bit backwards, which means that you will adjust your tires more in the straight way with only 0.5 or 1 degrees of toe out. This will produce more steering as your outer wheel is more pointing to the inside when you are cornering. And in the same way you can do it in the rear. When you're running with 3 or 3.5 degrees of toe in the rear, you will have a very stable rear normally. And when you're looking for more steering, you can reduce your rear toe in to 2.5 or 2 degrees to get more rotation out of your car. So always keep that in mind. Less toe out on the front and less toe in on the rear will produce more steering at all. Okay, concerning the camber, you can use more camber change in the front, which means that the camber of your front wheel will change more during cornering to the inside than you have it at the moment. You can make these adjustments with the front camber link, and as you use less shims on the inside or more on the outside, you will achieve a camber link which is more angled and which produces more camber when the suspension gets compressed. So the camber will maybe change from 2 degrees to 2.5 or to 2.7 or something like that. You can check that with your setup system, and when you have more camber change, you will produce more traction, especially when the car is in the corner and is leaning on the wheel. Then you will have more tire surface on the ground, and this will produce more steering and will stress the tire a little bit more on the other side, but that's something you have to deal with then. More camber change in the corner will produce a little bit more steering. Okay, weight distribution is always important, and normally in the touring cars we have to use some extra weight because the cars are always too light. When you build them according to the manual and just install your electronics, you are underweight, and because of that we have the options to place weights here in the front, in the middle and on the rear of the car. And when you're looking for more steering, sometimes the people think, hey, I will put more weight in the front, then I will get more steering because the front is more heavy. But that's not right. It's the opposite way. When you're looking for more steering, especially on corner entry, you have to remove the 10 grams here in the front and mount it in the rear of the car, because then, due to the more weight in the rear, when you start to steer, your car will be more reactive because more weight is in the rear, and the dynamics of your car will produce this more aggressive feeling in the first moment when you're entering the corner. So looking for more steering, check the weight distribution and maybe mount some weights from the front to the rear or add some weight to the rear, and you will feel a difference on the track. The same you can do with the droop. Droop is always something which is super important, and you can notice smallest changes in the suspension droop. And when you are looking for more steering, you can use less front droop and more rear droop at the same time, or you only change one of these things. It's simple to explain. When you're looking for more corner entry steering, you should check the rear droop especially, and when the droop in the rear is not much and your car cannot lift a lot, just give it a little bit more droop and go maybe from 5.0 to 4.6. Then your suspension can move a little bit more upwards when you're entering the corner, when you're braking, or when you just go off throttle, and more weight will lean over the front and you will get a little bit more steering into the corner. When you have the problem that your car is pushing out of the corner, when you're accelerating out of the corner, then you should always check the front droop as well, because when you are going onto the throttle, your car always tries to lift in the front. And when you then reduce the front droop, which means that you go from, for example, from 5.6 to 6.2, then your front end will stay more flat on the track when you hit the throttle, and not that much of weight is going only to the rear of the tires and produce rear grip. You will always have more front grip then as well, which will help you to get the car more better out of the corner in a straight line without having too much push out of the corner. So always check the droop settings. I mean, it's always depending on the settings you have in your car when you try that, but in generally you can say less front droop and more rear droop can help you to get more steering. Okay, we are almost done. 2 tips where I don't want to say too much about because my knowledge is not perfect. A thicker front anti-roll bar will give you the feeling of more steering. I think it will only give you the feeling of a more direct car. You will have more direct feeling, but I think that in the middle of the corner, the thicker anti-roll bar will not produce more steering. It will only give you the feeling of a more responsiveness in the front. I think with a softer anti-roll bar, you will maybe get more steering from the middle of the corner to the exit, but with the anti-roll bars, it's super tricky to feel, and it's very track specific, and not every driver does a lot of changes with the anti-roll bars, so don't go crazy with that, but you can try for sure what your car will do with a thicker anti-roll bar or with a thinner one as well, and it's a good tuning option in the front to go with these anti-roll bar settings. A thicker rear diff will also give you more steering, especially out of the corner when the traction is not super high. Go with a thicker diff and you will have more on-power steering. When you hit the throttle, your car will push a little bit more out of the corner with the rear, and this will give you more corner exit steering. And last but not least, we will talk about the body shell. You have the option to mount your body shell more centered on the car or more to the front. And when you're looking for more steering, you can use a body shell which is mounted maybe 2, 3, 4 or 5 millimeters more to the front compared to the neutral position. And this will have a huge effect. You will have more surface of body shell more in front of the front wheels, and the downforce will be produced more in front of the car and of the front suspension, and you will have more surface pressing the front down, which will give you more steering. And I think also when your body shell is 5 millimeters more in the front compared to the wheels, you arrive a little bit earlier in the corner or at the point where you start to steer, and this will also give you this feeling of more steering because you start to steer in the corner a little bit more early because the front end of your car arrives a little bit faster at the corner than when the body shell is more mounted backwards. So you can try that, and on the same side you can mount your wing more to the front. This will also give you more steering because you will not produce a lot of downforce in the rear section of the car. When you want to move your wing, you maybe can go with a little bit of a bigger hole on the rear wing compared to the screw, and then you have a range where you can mount the wing or shift the wing to the front or to the back by 1 or 2 millimeters. That's enough, and you can feel the difference then. So guys, that's it for today. I don't want to tell more about all these changes. If you want to read that by yourself, just check out Ryan Maker's Speed Secrets. It's available in the ToniSport shop. A lot of great content, and especially about things like that. There are a lot of other topics as well, as for example, what you can do to get more rear grip or to get more overall grip, and you will see that in all of the next ToniSport Newsfeed videos. But I recommend to have this book in your pit bag. Whenever you are on a race, you can put it out and get all these things in mind once again, because sometimes when you are at a race you forget what you can do and you are in your own setup jungle, and when you're on the way home Sometimes you get all these ideas, why I haven't tried that, why I haven't tried that. And when you look into the book at the right moment, it can help you to find the right decision. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the ToniSport Newsfeed video. Until the next time, keep racing. Always race with us, race with ToniSport. You will never race alone. Goodbye.